Kentucky Derby.
You're watching Past the Wire TV, the biggest races at the best tracks. From the Kentucky Derby to the Breeders' Cup. The best horse racing coverage is right here on Past the Wire TV.
Welcome in Sunday morning coffee only on Past the Wire TV. I am Big Race Jim. Every week, thank you to SureBet Coffee, Amwager, the most horse player friendly platform there is, and Pleasant Acres. Saturday at Saratoga with the Travers, a huge card. And if you like to bet the chalk, you woke up with $10 extra in your pocket today. Congratulations. All jokes aside, I think there's a couple of different things to talk about. I think the performances we saw yesterday from the stars of the sport that were at Saratoga were tremendous. And I think there's a couple of different ways we can look at it. Sovereignty was the most likeliest winner, right? Kind of tough to make money on that. But the sequence you thought had some good opportunities and a few near misses, and we go from $145, $145 pick six payout, which could have been, if a few different things go the opposite way, could have been astronomical. And it's interesting because I think a lot of times when we collectively as horse players kind of, and I'm guilty of this, I'm guilty of this too, when we sort of lament the days of heavy favorites winning, right? I think the favorite won the last 7 races on the card. So that's already half of them. And I believe the favorite won the first 2 at least. So yeah, if you're the type of player that's always looking to beat the favorite, and I think if you want to make money in this game long term, the idea is that you have to try and find favorites to beat. And what we saw in that late sequence, you thought you had some opportunities to get past the favorite, right? It seemed like, and it's always funny too, like before the races, everybody, I use everybody loosely, but a lot of people within the industry are talking about Torpedo Anna. I'm one of them saying that she's not as good as she was last year. I didn't, think she was all that great last year, beating up on tomato cans. And the one tough test she had earlier this year, she lost. Her figures have been slow. And everybody is playing against her yesterday, and sure enough, she wins. So there's your odds-on favorite in that race that wins. Then, it was a nose. It was a nose. Dorth Vader, ran tremendously in defeat. So that was close, right? You almost had an opportunity there. Then later, you had Bookem Dano in the forego, and it looked like in the last 16th that perhaps Scotland was going to get there, but you have Bookem Dano win at, I think, whatever it was, 8-5. And then you have Sovereignty win at 2-5 or whatever it ended up being. and you go from, not that anybody else had his shot, all right, but you go from these near misses, and there's probably another one or two in there that I'm just forgetting. But you have these near misses, and you go from what could have potentially been tens of thousands of dollars in the pick six to $145, and people are complaining. And which, I get, I get. Um, so I think that there's a couple of different ways you can look at it. You can shake it off and say, yeah, I took a couple of shots. I'm not looking for a $145 pick six payout. The chances are any pick six ticket that was played was probably significantly more expensive than that, which I'll get to that at the end here. So you just kind of lick your wounds and move on. Or if you're super sharp, you could find a way to not be involved in those sequences and play some win bets or an exacta or two to kind of make those favorites worth a little bit more. And I think a lot of times, especially in this day and age with social media and YouTube and Twitter and all of that, a lot of us kind of fall into the trap that we have to have this sort of outside the box um, opinion. And like John always says, when everybody's zigging, you want to be zagging, because if you're zigging when they're zigging, nobody's making any money. But when you're zagging when they're zigging, that's where the opportunities are. So on big days like Travers Day, sure, it probably makes sense to uh, to zag when everybody's zigging, and that's fine. But there is something to be said, I think, for recognizing when certain horses are just superior. And I missed it yesterday. Um, for whatever reason, I just can't get behind Bookem Dano, and I just try to get too cute every time and try and beat him, and he beats me every single time. So I think a lot of times we have this desire, right? If you watch back on the 30-second Travers show from from Wednesday night, instead of talking about why Sovereignty was the greatest horse we've seen, since Secretariat, using a little bit of a hyperbole there, um, I said, well, here's why. If you're looking for a reason to play against him, here's a couple. They didn't really pan out, but that's fine. But I think a lot of times we fall into that trap. I obviously fell into that trap, trying to say something negative about this horse who doesn't really, don't really have a bad thing to say about him. But I think a lot of times these big races, big fields, ton of quality, I think a lot of times we think that we have to go completely against the grain, and maybe sometimes it comes back to bite us. Captain Cook was the other one with Patch Adams. Patch Adams won as the odds-on favorite. Captain Cook at 20 to 1 was right there. So you had these near misses, right? These almosts for yesterday's card, and that makes it exciting. Um, but maybe there was a way to string a couple of those favorites together to make a little money. I didn't see the full number. Anyway, that's my opening monologue. If you're if you're able to track me, um, I didn't see the full number, but I did see that overall handle on the day was down like 7 million, which I thought was interesting, and maybe that has to do with just it being a 5-horse field, perhaps, or maybe everybody was super smart and just played the favorites all day long, and they didn't play all that much. Either way, um, Travers Day typically wraps up the whole summer. I know we've got the Jockey Club Gold Cup next weekend, I think, on closing weekend, but um, we'll see what the attendance and the handle comes back at. Looked like, I mean, Travers Day was down, Whitney Day was up a couple million. So we'll see. My guess is that it'll probably be right in line with what it's been the last couple of years. It's about 800 million, I think, if I'm correct off the top of my head. And everybody pick up, move back down to the Big A for one last swan song there, and then get ready for the Breeders' Cup. I think, and I texted John and Eddie C after the race yesterday, and I said, journalism wins the Pacific Classic and then the Breeders' Cup Classic for Horse of the Year, and just as kind of a joke. And then I saw Craig Milkowski, he tweeted out something similar, like, "What's the better resume?" And it'd be tight. It would be really tight, and that would be super exciting to see um, how that would all shake out. Does beating, a head-to-head record of, and we're getting way, 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 way ahead of ourselves, but it's fun to talk about. Would a 2-to-1 head-to-head record for Sovereignty be enough for 3-year-old and Horse of the Year over Journalism, who has would have one extra grade 1 and 2 wins over older horses? That would be tough. That would be tough. Who knows? Let's see. Sierra Leone wins the Jockey Club Gold Cup and wins the Breeders' Cup Classic again, and he's Horse of the Year easily. So, uh, good stuff. Now I'm talking about it, it's fun to see how this all shake out over the next couple of months. One other note on yesterday's races in the Lake Placid. I just want to show this. Thought I thought that this race was very interesting, as
And they're off in the Lake Placid. It was an even start.
this one,
Afterward, warming in a little bit.
I thought
Play with fire
got
and
such a
Eponine goes right to the front. Mayday
got
ready.
such
Into the cup two, and Mayday ready wants
kind
to
of got
lead. That
screwed
will get
along
into
the
first
the
turn.
backstretch,
And Scarlet
and
Sands
we'll
is
see it
also
here in a little
piling up
while.
in the early
But
stages.
first things
Left Lane
first, I
will
mean,
sit
the
in
the
second.
four
And on the
warming
outside,
was
Play
just
with
given
Fire.
absolutely
That's
zero
Paisley
chance in
Flyway,
this
4
race.
lengths
Like,
off the lead. The 2
you're
wheeler,
yanking
Raining
him.
Flowers, and Warming
Obviously,
is at the
the
back.
horse was a little bit
Left Lane
rank
4 and 2.
going into the
Favorite
first
Mayday
turn, and
ready in
then
front.
you're just kind
Opens
of
up a
like holding
3
them
length
back the whole
advantage on the
time. That horse had
backstretch,
no
with
shot.
Eponine racing in
Um,
second. They're followed by
so the
Scarlet
one
Sands in third,
with
and
Pratt,
Play with
Play with
Fire running
Fire,
ahead.
I thought had a
A length
really
and a half,
huge
Raining
shot
Flowers and
in this
Warming. 5
race.
lengths covers
And
them. Mayday
then
ready is
as I'm
front.
watching it
4 and a
live,
half mile
you're just
pole under
getting
Jose
this
Ortiz in
pan
command by
shot.
almost 3
And
lengths.
then I was
Eponine
like,
marching in
damn, why
second.
did
Play with Fire
why did Pratt
on the
give up
inside
so much
third.
positioning, like right
Following it,
there? Like,
Scarlet Sands making a middle move.
why
Raining
did
Flowers
he
and
drift all
Warming.
the
The
way
half and 49
basically to the
flat for
back
Mayday
of
Ready. Mayday
the
Ready still
field
under
to
a
try
strong
and
hold. Has a
make a
2 length advantage on
rally?
Scarlet Sands,
And
who's in second.
seeing that he
Eponine
came up
third.
short, I
Warming
was
again up
like,
on the
oh,
outside as
well,
the field turns for home.
that was not
Mayday Ready a length and a
that
half.
was not an
Eponine
ideal
is trying
ride
her best in
by
second. Play with
Pratt, right?
Fire
Because you
coming
see him
through along
start to
the inside
rally
now.
here,
Play with
and
Fire still second, trying to get
you
to
thought
Mayday
maybe
Ready.
he
Mayday Ready 2 length lead.
had a
Play
little bit
with
of a
Fire and
shot,
Flavian Pratt in hot
but
pursuit. Mayday Ready has something left.
giving up all of that
Mayday
positioning
Ready
on the
all the
backstretch
way in the Lake Placid. Play with
um,
Fire was second
did
best.
not
Eponine finished
bode well. But let's take a look at this.
was second best. Eponine finished third. Behind them, Raining Flowers.
And we got the head on. Let's see where it switches. Yeah. So right here, Pratt, you see him along the hedge. Let's see if this angle changes. Right about there is where he gets cut off and gives up like 3 lengths. And that was the race. That was the race right there. I mean, the one you could argue was the best horse in this race. Look, I mean, he's last. All because of that. Because he lost positioning because he got cut off there by the two. Um, which which was a bummer. So anyway, just another word on making sure that you're watching the replays because you probably want to bet that one back. And maybe there's people who are a little bit more keen in seeing that um, better than I can on the pan, but the head on really tells a completely different story. All right, I got one last thought on yesterday's Saratoga card, but we'll do it after the break, and it involves a just wild bet that is just absurd. We'll be right back.
Go.
It's simplification and Javier.
These bet share tickets that like celebrities or popular people build on a popular ADW platform should be outlawed. And maybe it's because we only see the most ridiculous ones. I don't know if this is a daily thing, a weekly thing, like on just big days. I don't know how often they do it, but the last two that I've seen on big racing days have just been like, uh, again, using a little bit hyperbole, borderline criminal. Like you put together like a almost $6,000 pick six ticket and you sell shares of it for close to $60. So if my math was right, that'd be about 100, right? You're trying to get 100 people uh, to to invest in that. Yeah, and I use the word invest very loosely, but you got a $6,000 ticket almost, and you're asking people for $60 a share, and that ticket, I mean, how are we how are we growing the game? Right? And I understand like pick six tickets can be expensive, especially, especially yesterday. I mean, you feel like there's a bunch of horses that could win. Um, they ended up didn't not winning, but going in, you felt like there were a couple races in there that were wide open in that sequence, maybe. But the way that ticket was built, you would need something wild to happen for that ticket to cash. Even after like the first 2 races, anybody that knows anything about odds and parlaying, pick X tickets, knew that ticket was in deep water. But if you're new and you're like, oh, I got $100 I'm gonna play on the races today. College football's back. Got college football on one screen. I got Fox's coverage of Saratoga on the other. And then you open up this ADW app and you see, oh, there's a bet share. I don't really know what I'm doing, but let me just buy in on this parlay. And you get back like a couple of bucks. So you won, but you lost. And that is, I think, one of the biggest hurdles in in horse racing, is that you can win, but you can still lose. And we don't do a good job of explaining how that is possible. And secondarily, putting out a $6,000 ticket and asking people to buy in on it is, in my mind, just so unethical and so detrimental to this game. Whoever bought in on that is not going to play again. They're running so far in the opposite direction because it's a lot easier and you feel like you have a lot more control to just put $60 on some sporting event that you feel like you have more knowledge over. And therein lies the issue. These bet share things, I don't know, maybe there's fine print, maybe there's a video somewhere that explains how it works once you sign up and you get involved. I don't know. I've never participated in them. I think they're ridiculous. But to just share out a tweet and say, buy in on this, bad. It's just bad business. And it's unfortunate because those people are never coming back. You're not going to spend $60, win, and not make your money back at least, and get your teeth kicked in and show up again today and say, yes, that was fun. I want some more. You're out. You've tuned out until Kentucky Derby. And that's the problem. That's the problem. And that sort of marketing gimmicky thing is doing so much more harm than good. And that was upsetting to see. And there was another one, like I think it was a Kentucky Derby Day or Preakness Day or Belmont Day, or maybe one of those like night racing days at Churchill Downs they put out from a celebrity. And it just got, I think that was another like $2,000 like pick 5 ticket, which like should never be that high. Anyway, that was tough. So we'll see. I'm sure they'll do it again because they keep doing it. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Good day all around yesterday at Saratoga. Fun racing, fun stuff to talk about coming out of it. But we'll see. We'll see a couple big races over the next couple of weeks, and then all eyes shift to the Breeders' Cup. Thanks again for checking us out each and every week. Sunday morning coffee on Past the Wire TV. I am Big Race Jim. Shout out to Shorebet Coffee, Amwager, Pleasant Acres, and we will see you next week.
journalism. Here comes Sovereignty, and they square off, heading to the final for Sovereignty wins the Derby.
You're watching Past the Wire TV. Hit that like button and subscribe to Past the Wire TV. Nobody does it better.